Ladies and gentlemen, members of City Council, please attend a called meeting of the City Council to be held in the 6th floor conference room, 801 Crawford Street, 5 p.m. Tuesday, March 11, 2014, for the purpose of a public work session. In addition, you may consider a motion to go into closed meeting by order of the mayor. Mr. Sherry?
Here.
Mr. Edmonds?
Here.
Mr. Meeks?
Here.
Mr. Moody?
Here.
Ms. Simmons?
Here.
Ms. Randall? Mayor Wright?
Here.
Mr. Rowe?
Thank you, Deborah. We have some annual reports and some good news to give you from two departments that serve our community 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, every day of the year. And we start with the police department and Ed Hargis.
I thought you were talking about planning, but okay. 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, right?
But anyway, Ed's going to lead off, and he'll be followed by Beck.
Mayor, Vice Mayor, council members, good evening.
Hey, Chief.
Here to give you our 2013 annual highlights for the Portsmouth Police Department. I do want to start off with that last night our Citizens Police Academy kicked off first session for our 2014 season, our session. As you all know, I've reported last council meeting that Mr. Rowe and myself enrolled all of you, the entire council, in this session, so feel free to show up at 6:30 next Monday night at the training unit and we'll put you through the process. 2013, our staffing ended. I'm authorized 263 officers and we had 247 on payroll. Currently I have 243, leaving me with 20 vacancies that we're recruiting for and going through the hiring process. I also have 104 authorized civilian support positions, of which 94 are currently filled as of December 31st. We function on a budget of just over $36.2 million, primarily for the police, animal control, security, 94%, with the other 6% remaining for the 911 dispatch center. Let's talk about recruiting real quick, what it takes to be a police officer, the application process. You apply to the Civil Service Commission and you complete a civil service test. From there you go to the agility test, go through a background investigation, a panel interview, the medical, physical, and then a chief of police interview. If you pass all those, you're hired. Recently we've been going through a four-week pre-hire process where we bring you onto the police department, get you familiar with the agency. Then we ship you off to the Hampton Roads Regional Academy for 18 weeks to get your basic training. We then bring you back for 5 weeks to put you through the post-academy. That's where we take the basic training at the academy level, curtail it to how we do things here in Portsmouth, and then you head out onto the street and work with a field training officer for 14 weeks. So the total time after you're hired, 41 weeks in training with an average cost of $84,000 per recruit process. And that includes your salary, training, and equipment costs.
Was that dinner?
Salad. It was the salad.
It was the salad, huh?
That's the tall salad.
Our organizational chart did not change from 2012 into 2013. One chief of police, one assistant chief of police. Strategic Initiatives Bureau here in the yellow is a civilian bureau director position. All other bureaus, Uniform Patrol, Special Operations, Criminal Investigations Administrative, are commanded by a captain. And the operations section is a police commander, which is equal to the major rank in other cities. Part 1 offenses, I want to take you back to 1990. 1990, Portsmouth was over 10,000 Part 1 crimes reported in a year. Here you see in 2008 we were at 6,300. 2010, 6,100, 2011, 5,800, 2012, 5,200, and 2013 we have 5,700. And I'm going to get into the 13 numbers here to give you more information.
And would you explain what UCR is for?
UCR, Part 1 crimes, Uniform Crime Report. Part 1 crimes on the violence side, we consider homicide, robbery, aggravated assault, and sexual assault. On the property crimes, we consider burglary, larceny, arson, and auto theft. So we take those numbers and combine it. We submit that data to the state police as well as the FBI, and that's where you get your UCR crime numbers for the year. Going into 2013, if you look, the green is 2012, the yellow is 2013, and the red is our 5-year weighted average. It's where we take the average over 5 years. Last year, violent crimes, we were at 484 compared to 450 in 2012. 2012, our numbers really dropped in the city from the previous year, so there's an increase in 13. Our violent crimes increase is attributed to aggravated assaults. Most of those are known offender, known victim. They're not aggravated assaults that are just occurring out on the street, domestic violence related to two drinking buddies get into a major fight and becomes an aggravated assault, those types of incidents. Property crimes, again, we're at 5277 for last year in 13 compared to 4,777 in 12. That increase is primarily due to residential burglaries, which I reported out previously, as well as our larceny offenses. Larceny offenses is coming out of the Walmart, has an aggressive shoplifting program in place now, and of course every time they make an arrest for shoplifting, that increases our numbers in the larceny category. Total incidents were at 5761 compared to 5227, but we are under our 5-year weighted average. So in the last 5 years, we've seen a 28% reduction in violent crime and a 9% reduction in property crime across the board. As I reported out the past couple of years since I've been here, one of the things I follow closely are gunshot wounds. These are people that receive gunshot wounds and survive. 63 was a high number when I got here. Wanted to put efforts into reducing those numbers, and as you can see, we dropped to 55 in 2009, 31 in 10, 27 in 2011, 25 in 2012, and then we were up 6 last year to 31. Arrests and criminal charges, last year we're at 12,500. From a high of 2010, we were at 14,600. So there is a decrease in arrests and criminal charges. I'm sorry, in charges. Arrests were at 8,025 last year, from a high in 2010 at 10,147. 2013, like I talked about, we focused in on the residential burglaries. Our officers were working neighborhoods specifically that were receiving high volumes of burglaries. So the overall arrests and traffic summonses for 13, you see lower than previous years, but the officers were directed to very specific neighborhoods. Traffic summonses issued in 13, 12,231 compared to 1,461 accidents. Our accident numbers across the 6 years here are pretty much consistent. Traffic summonses, we had a high in 2012 of 18,367, and again we're at 12,231 last year, being very focused into the neighborhoods. Juvenile arrests for the past 3 years, 331 in 2011, 383 in 2012, and 449 in 2013. And this is information only based on the police department's records management system, not the actual petitions that are issued by the intake officers through the Juvenile Domestic Relations Court. So our juvenile arrests are actually higher. We just don't get access to the actual petition issuance on the court side.
And explain what most of these arrests are for.
They can range anywhere from curfew violations to larceny, but majority of them were residential burglaries. Apprehensions that were made either by citizens calling in for an in-progress crime, police officers and detectives following up on the burglaries that were reported and making numerous arrests. Drug arrests, I put this up here because it's not included in the UCR data reporting. But again, we had 851 drug-related arrests last year in 13.
Chief, some of these the drug statistics, are they correlated to some of the other crimes that you have charted?
My biggest concern over the past year was the residential burglaries, and they do not appear directly related to drug offenses. They appear more to juvenile-type issues. Truants from school, juveniles running through the neighborhoods, knocking on doors, no answer. They hop the fence, go around back and kick the door in, break out the window, and go in and take electronics, those types of things.
What about the guns, shootings?
Again, we recovered quite a few weapons last year. I don't have the exact totals with me. Guns are part of the drug trade, but there's also a lot of weapons that are being stolen out of vehicles as well as houses. So they are out there, and the officers do make the apprehensions and recover firearms. As I said, 2013, Our focus on 4 initiatives that we started a couple of years ago. 1 is shootings, 2 is robberies, 3 is residential burglaries, and 4 are larcenies. 2013, again, residential burglaries was our main focus. 224 arrests for burglaries. And again, this is only coming out of our records management system. That doesn't include the actual petitions issued from the court. We created several different initiatives, pilot programs where the shift commander would call in officers from all different units, patrol, investigative, special operations, to conduct hotspot directed patrols. We implemented a burglary task force where we assigned a sergeant and 4 officers to target known offenders that were committing burglaries. Our Bravo group, which is our proactive patrol group, has been assigned to specific burglary locations as well. And coming into 2014, I'm working on an offender management program where we have numerous individuals that have been convicted of multiple burglaries. They've been released, and we're going to go out and become best friends with those individuals and make sure that they understand that burglary is not an acceptable crime here in Portsmouth, and we're going to do everything we can to reduce those numbers by watching these individuals. So I'm working with the schools, social services, behavioral health, the Commonwealth Attorney's Office, probation, everybody. I'm trying to make this a 360 type program so we can have services available to offer to these individuals as we work through the offender management program. But more will follow on that as we put it together and launch the program. 2013, we developed a new website. One of our officers was a graphic artist, experienced in developing sites. He put this website together, and we launched it last summer. And again, it's a new and improved site from our previous website. Out on the internet, we also maintain our Twitter with over 1,200 people following us. Facebook, 2,800 people are on our page. And our audience ranges from the Hampton Roads area all the way out to Portsmouth, England. Currently follow us on Facebook. So it's our effort to be transparent and put the information out to the public through crime alerts and what's happening, as well as all the other information in the police department. Some milestones: the homicide unit investigated 8 homicides. That's the lowest number in 10 plus years that we have. So it's a low homicide year, and the homicides have been dropping as well as the shootings. Recruiting, actually July 1st of 2013, we reached full staffing of 263 officers. And then from that point on, we've had several officers retire, creating the 20 vacancies that I currently have now. But we did reach full staffing there once for the first time since 2005. And we still have heavy recruiting efforts out there to maintain a diverse workforce. We placed 3rd in the Law Enforcement Challenge. That's our priority on traffic enforcement, traffic safety programs by the Virginia Association of Chiefs of Police, as well as the International Association of Chiefs of Police. With our recruiting efforts, we were awarded the bronze certification with the V3 program. Virginia values veterans, so we spend a lot of time recruiting veterans coming out of the military to join into the police department and start the civil service process. We acquired several different things in 2013, including our patrol equipment vehicle. This was purchased with a Justice Assistance Grant. This is an equipment vehicle. There's 2 of them now out on the street, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It gives the officers support equipment to make sure they have what they need to get their job done. We switched to a digital drive photo printer and a forensics unit. That's to get us away from having chemicals from the old printers that we had. $22,000 investment there. That's going to save us money in the long run. And out of phase 1 of the $3 million Project 25 radio upgrade, we issued out 280 portable radios and installed 239 mobile radios that are all capable of the P25 compliance, which needs to be done by September of 2017, I believe it is.
Do you have any more problems with your frequency on your radios?
There are still areas that give us trouble based on the weather conditions and time of the year, and we've been working with the radio shop and city IT. I do know that we're still on a work in progress on upgrading the radio system. I think we still have phase 2, phase 3 to go. And when we get to phase 3, most of that will be completed to resolve that issue.
Phase 2 and phase 3, what price was it? You remember the budget?
It's being handled through city IT. It's not a police department function. We're only a component to it.
It's a big number.
Is there still like 6 million left? Or?
It's a big number.
Grants awarded to the police department in 2013 total $293,000. Again, port security grant, which is our camera system, justice assistance grant, which is the vehicle, the printer and forensics, our grants for occupant protection, seatbelt grants, as well as alcohol, DUI patrols, checkpoints, and the 911 PSAP wireless grant allows training for dispatchers. Some of our goals for 2014, we're modifying our strategic plan for the next 5 years out. We just in the process of submitting our RFP for the new CADS computer-aided dispatch system, which is what 911 Center uses to dispatch the cars. The software, that's about an $800,000 investment. That's on a 2-year CIP from council, which was awarded last year. We're going to replace 18 vehicles this year. We just established a staff inspections unit. That's an internal audit unit to go in and audit our processes. It's a sergeant and a lieutenant, and they go and make sure that we are meeting our policies and procedures. We're operating within the requirements, which will move us towards and get us back on track for CALIA accreditation, which you just saw. Chesapeake PD was announced this past week that they're currently in the process of being accredited. So hopefully within a year we're going to be following that process and get back on track and apply for national accreditation.
Does that accreditation do anything to homeowners insurance like the FAR accreditation does?
Not so much as for homeowners. It does reduce some liability costs to the city. And again, you have outside auditors come in and make sure that we comply with the national best policing practices and make sure that our policies are in place and that we're actually following those policies. So if a lawsuit does occur, it's less liability on the city at that point.
Good.
And our organizational chart for 2014 includes a staff inspections unit coming off the assistant chief of police. That's the addition.
Is that another captain or no? Just the sergeant and lieutenant.
That's a lieutenant and a sergeant in staff inspections. So that's my 2013 annual report. Anybody have any other questions?
Think of that like an inspector general. That might help.
Are those some of these stats, particularly on the crime and drug numbers, are those available, broken down by community, Chief?
By neighborhood?
Yeah, by neighborhood.
We're going to go to, with our CADS upgrade and combining CADS and records management, we're going to go to the My Neighborhood and update our My Neighborhood. So if you go to our website, go on there, you can actually look at specific crimes for a very specific block or going out into a neighborhood.
Okay, so those will be these numbers with the neighborhood overlay?
Correct.
Okay, great.
And it'll pull information both on the CAD side and our records management side once we get the new CAD system in place.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
We sent some of our officers down to Florida for training. How did that end up working out for us?
I sent 6 officers down to Tampa to take a look at their Focus on 4 program, and then I was just recently down there at the end of January. We didn't adopt the entire program. We've adopted pieces, and right now we're modifying it to what's going to work here in Portsmouth, which includes a information network on our system that the officers will be able to share information, intelligence information, crime information. Because when you work 12-hour shifts, the officers that are working 12 hours today, if they finish up today, there's a new group of officers coming in tomorrow, starting day work, so there's no information transfer. So we're being making that connection to allow the information to get transferred from shift to shift, officer to officer, actually in the neighborhood.
Okay.
So the neighborhood officer can report to the next neighborhood officer what occurred. And we're taking a look at the offender management program. Again, we just didn't pull it from one agency. We're taking a look at High Point, North Carolina, New York City, Tampa, as well as some others. And we're pulling the best parts out of that that's going to work here in Portsmouth.
Yes, sir.
Are citizens really involved in reporting crimes, and if they are, has that been high or low? Or
As we've gotten the information out about the residential burglaries, a lot of our apprehensions are coming from people that are calling in suspicious incidents, whether it's glass breaking or the person doesn't look right, or kids should be in school but they're out in front and
Yeah.
the officers are going out. We're making quite a few apprehensions that way. Early on, when I was headed to the Civic League meetings, I can remember a lady coming up and telling me, I heard glass breaking in my neighborhood 5 days ago. I'm like, did you call? Mm-hmm. Well, no. Well, when you hear the glass breaking or you see something suspicious, call us right then and there. I would much rather send an officer out, find out that the incident's unfounded, than 4 or 5 hours later come back and take a burglary report from a house.
Thanks, Chief.
What's the diversity breakdown of our force currently, Chief?
Not much
Men,
different
women?
than the last time I reported. I can get you those numbers. I didn't bring the sheet with me tonight to give you the exact numbers, but it's almost identical to where we were.
Thanks, Chief.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
You all are getting the email blast when incidents happen. Are you not?
Oh, yeah, that's great.
Good. I want to make sure that you're still comfortable with that.
Yes.
And you know the thing, speaking of email blasts, the Nixle things that come out from the police website are real. I don't know if y'all sign up for that. You can sign up for Nixle for other cities
Yeah.
even, and it's good stuff.
Good. We have a great police department and a great fire department. In fact, I was going to tell you about that too. You know, these jobs have gotten so scientific, and they require a lot of education and training, and not just to get hired, but to stay current.
Yeah.
That's what. Thank you.
Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of council, good evening.
Hey, Chief.
I'll give you an update on some of the things that's happening in the Portsmouth Fire Department. Some of this information you've probably seen before. We start off with our mission statement, and it remains the same. The mission statement of the Portsmouth Fire Department is to protect the lives and property of the citizens and visitors of the city of Portsmouth against fire, sudden medical emergencies, hazardous material incidents, and natural and man-made disasters, and that includes the snowstorms. The first slide is our organizational chart. We're divided into administrative office and operations. If you look under the administrative side, we have fire prevention and fire training. On the operations side, we have 241 employees total, and of those 241, 222 are what we call sworn employees. The operations division is the one that is the one that handles most of the calls for help. If you, as we look through the charts, we'll find out that the majority of calls that we get, 76% of the calls that we get in this city are EMS calls. Our system overview, fire suppression has 210 people that we would like to work with or have on duty. However, we have 178 folks on duty. The asterisks that you see up there, those 178 people do those positions or those jobs also. So they're wearing more than one hat. 178. We have a maritime response team, and that includes the boat team. Also, we have two boats, one downtown and one out in Churchland. The hazardous material team is made up of 30 qualified hazardous material members who are the lead team for the Southside Regional hazmat teams. And we also have our technical rescue and heavy rescue teams at Station 4. We have 14 full-time paramedics and 30 part-time paramedics that handle 65% of the total EMS calls that we participate in the city. The other 32% of calls are handled by the firefighter paramedics that's inside of the 178. We get mutual aid from the Navy Regional and other cities about 3% of the time. Since September of 2012, we've had 21 people to retire from Portsmouth Fire Department. During that time, we hired seven people. Currently, we have 32 vacancies. We have 16 people in basic school at this time.
That's a lot, isn't it?
It is. It's a large class.
Much needed.
The employees, new employees, the fire recruits, they come to us untrained, so everything we have to do, we have to train them. and the total cost is right around $66,000. They stay in basic school for almost 9 months. That's fire and EMS. When they come out, they're EMTEs out of the whole academy. Success rate is 66% out of the amount of people that we send in there. So 2 of 3 people make it out of the academy.
And what's the biggest cause for washout, would you tell council?
The biggest cause?
Right.
Well, the biggest cause of washout is the national standard testing. We go through what we call the national registry. So the national registry, when we went to that first last year, percentage of failure, they didn't give us the pass rate, they gave us 60% failure rate for folks that take the test. They get 3 chances to take that test. If they wash out, then we can't continue with them in the basic school, so we have to let them go at that point.
How far along the process have you gone before you get to that point?
What we try to do is to give them the benefit of the doubt, to give them at least the 3 chances. So this is right before they go to fire school. The first school they go to is EMTB. And once they pass the EMTB, they're allowed to go to fire school. After they finish fire school, they have to go to EMTE. And once they get released from EMTE, we can make them firefighters. On the other side, the EMS recruit takes a lot less because they come to us trained. Most times when the paramedics come to us, they've been trained, and what we have to do is get them sanctioned and get them used to the way we do business in Portsmouth. So they go through a academy, and we'll talk about that a little later on. Just a brief to let everybody know, we have 8 fire stations within the city. Station 1 is on Effingham Street, and it has engine company, two engine companies, a ladder company, medic unit, and a battalion. Station 3 is located in Churchland on Rivershore Road, and they house the boat team. On Broad Street is the EMS supervisor and the EMS office, along with the technical rescue team. We've combined all the stations, we've combined the EMS division with the technical rescue station and put those put them at one station together. At Station 7, I think that's on that you've seen when you ride down Airline Boulevard. It's on Winchester and Airline. At Station 7, they have 1 engine and a battalion. Battalion 2 is located there. On Victory Boulevard, we have engine and a ladder and a medic. They house in the Cavalier Manor section of the city. Station 9 is located on Hodges Ferry Road. It has an engine and a medic, and just recently we added some emergency lights because this is one of the oldest stations in the city. So when the engine company and the medics come back, they have to back into the station. And if you've been down Hodges Ferry Road lately, you know it's a lot of traffic there. I witnessed a firefighter almost get hit because he was backing the engine up. So through James and Yusuf, we've done some improvements to the station. At one point, you couldn't even drive on the apron, so we had to get the apron redone. And we've gotten the red lights outside of Station 9. So that's an improvement for firefighter safety.
Chief, you mentioned lights. Reminded me, Station 3 on Rivershore Road, only 1 of the 6 lights out there are working in the lot, and makes for a pretty dark corner there.
All right, we'll get that taken care of.
Okay.
Rivershore and Cedar Lane.
Lane.
Yeah. We got it. Thanks, Bill.
Okay, the next is Station 11. That's over in this Craddock section of the town. And I don't know if you remember, there was a post office right next door to the fire station, and it stayed vacant for a while. So when I came, we asked if, and Dennis was here, and I asked Dennis, what did it take to get that building to house our logistics? So what we did, we made a logistics building, and then all the clothing and anything for firefighter gear we issued from the logistics building right next door to Station 11. And the next station, Station 12, is located on Cedar Lane. Has an engine, and that's a reserve ladder that's stationed in there. We also have our hurricane trailer and piece of apparatus called a Love 60 that's housed at that station. All right, what does it cost to do business? This is our budget. As you can see, 90% of our budget is salary and benefits. We operate on $722,755, which is only 3%. And the other is in the department transfers, so that's a total budget of like $27 million. What we would like to have on a good day is 54 people on duty, 54 people in the seats. When we don't have that, we have to pay overtime or either put a piece of apparatus out of service. We're trying to not use overtime, and we're rotating some of the companies, but because of the demand for training some of these new people, it's very hard to put so many pieces out and not put the city in jeopardy of being able to respond to at least 2 fires if we have one at the same time. The total cost for a firefighter, well, let's start with the engine. The engine right now is $500,000 per engine plus. We have 9 engines. The ladder is $1.4 million on a good day, and we have 3 of those. And we have 5 ambulances in service, and their average cost is $125,000. So we have one ambulance on order now. I think we should take delivery.
125. Is that fully outfitted or just?
That's the ambulance.
Just the ambulance.
Okay. To get it outfitted. And in the picture, you see the firefighter and lists all the clothes that we have to buy for them for their safety. This is only good for 10 years. So after 10 years, all this equipment has to be replaced.
And that's an important factor. It ages out, and it may still look functional, but in order for us to maintain our certification, we've got to be mindful of how old the equipment is.
I'd like to add that it's good to see the fire department come to some of the schools so that the children can see them dress in that, so that they won't be afraid in case
Right.
they're
That's a
around
good
the
point.
fire when it comes out.
And that's what we do, and we'll talk about it in a few minutes. But back to the self-contained breathing apparatus. Last year during our budget period, we asked for an upgrade of the self-contained breathing apparatus. This is the firefighter's lungs going into a burning building. Those ones that were in place at the time were compliant to 1997. We spent $800,000 with a combination of grants and department funds to outfit the whole department with new SCBAs. So now we're in compliant. Before we were out of compliant with those SCBAs. So that's one of the things that helped us.
And that sounds like a small deal, but it was a big deal. I mean, I'm really proud of these guys finding an innovative way to fund this. And it took Beck and his staff and Fred, Carol working together and others to bring that about. But when you have a piece of apparatus that is that old, that's not compliant, it's really important that you get it updated.
And this is our cause for the last 3 years. If you notice, there's been a decline in the number of house fires, and we'll talk about why that is. But this equates to a drop of 1 call per day for the last 3 years. So in the next slide. And it still shows that 76% of EMS hasn't changed. So that's our business. That's what we do, EMS. And some of the things that cause this drop in the runs, decrease in fire within the city has contributed to a number of things, and perhaps the most important is the creation of partnerships with our customers. In other words, we're out there at the schools with our public education program. We started the 4th grade program, and we have a young lady that goes around to the schools and teaches the 4th grade safety program. Also in July, we have what we call the Youth Fire Academy, which is 1 week. And what we do is take students 18 years old that's just gotten out of high school, and we put them through the fire academy. And it's been fun for a lot of the kids. We had a good response on it, and some of them, in fact, we had one to take the test for firefighter. So it's one of the programs we want to continue. Also, we have the Adult Fire Academy, which is 2 weekends that we do in September, and that's gives everybody a chance to see exactly what we do. The other thing we do, we attend Civic League meetings. We talk to the folks. We get out there and find out what's the problem with, what do you want to know about the fire department? We talk about all the things that, they ask questions like, how about cooking? What do I do when I want to cook a turkey or something like that? So we give them information like that, which is, it sounds funny, but a lot of folks don't know how to fry a turkey, and they go out there with no instructions, and next thing you know, the house is on fire. So we also do the community functions when we go out, and we just be invited to an event. We go out send an engine or a ladder company to respond. Also, we're working with plans reviews before folks come in and put something together, make sure they got the right fire protection, right spacing on extinguishers, those type things. So that's important too. And also the CERT program. And Ms. Randall was one of the ones in CERT for a while. Next month, there's a big CERT drill that's going to take place in Telos. So we're looking forward to that.
I'd like to just plug in at this point that is something that every one of us should get that training in. It's a tremendous program, and without it, you're lost in part of the experiences of being a council member.
One of the most important programs we put together was the smoke detector. There are so many houses that don't have smoke detectors that now they do. We've gone even further to replace the batteries twice a year. We've done inspections. We've done the home inspections, and a lot of times we find that smoke detectors are in the house. There's no battery in there. And you ask, why the battery's not in? Well, it was too loud. Cooking and it got too loud. Smoke detectors save lives, and we're proof of that. So, our next focus is on the EMS division. And because that's the most important thing that we do, we're trying to create a career path for some of the paramedics. Paramedics are like hens, too. They're hard to find. We've been able to invite some to our city and make them comfortable and enjoy working here. So what we want to do is continue that. Through some of the efforts, we managed to increase the starting pay. We've asked for positions, and we've established a training and evaluation program, the FTEPs. And we were the first ones to start an EMS academy, and we graduated 9 people back in September. So this idea has caught on. I think Chesapeake wants to do something similar to this, and so does Norfolk, because they're looking to hire paramedics also.
I want to put a plug in. These are smart folks too. Of the 14, we may lose one. He's already been accepted to medical school. Isn't that right, Jeff? And we have another that's applied to medical school. So these are people who, if they want to have a career in our department, they can. But if they want to pursue a career to become a doctor or a physician's assistant, they do. And so we get some very bright people, well-trained people coming through.
The implementation of a new electronic medical record system, which is called ImageTrend, and the use of mobile iPads for point-of-care documents was initiated the first part of this year. This has led to improved patient care through documentation of the care that we provide, improved insurance collection rates for EMS billing, and increased revenue for the city and improved employee productivity. So that's one of the main things that we did. We started it last year, and actually it went in place on January 31st. This next program was part of the things that we asked for in our previous budget. And it's the community-based mobile integrated health care program. In other words, it's called Checkup. And what it is our primary goal is the overall health of the citizens of Portsmouth in keeping with the Mayor's Healthy Portsmouth initiative. This is one of the things that we wanted to focus on. It specifically focuses on those people that have chronic illnesses and not able to manage them efficiently. Our target when we first started this were patients who use our system quite a bit. There's a name for them, but I'm not going to say. And some of those patients...
They're very frequent users.
Some of those patients use the system in excess of 300 times. We had 10 patients.
In other words, instead of calling the doctor,
That's right.
they call 911. And we go help them manage whatever the medical issue is at that moment. It might be their medication. It might be something really simple.
So what's the cost of one of those calls?
The cost of...
They see them.
Well, what happens, they call the 911, and a lot of them know how to get the engine and the medic out there. They'll say, I have chest pains, I have difficulty breathing. So we have to send an engine company because it's part of our protocol. We have to send a medic. So that taxes our system. Say if the house next door to Station 1, or if there was a house next door to Station 1, and somebody had a heart attack there, it would take almost 8 minutes for the nearest company to get there. And we're looking at the window of 4 minutes that we want to respond in 4 to 6 minutes. So it taxes our system when those folks call, and it's just something minor. So we have to go and try to, try to start all over again, or either send another company to respond to the house next door.
It's not only the cost is putting those folks in danger as well.
Right.
It's the opportunity.
Yeah.
If we're responding to a call like that, we don't have the opportunity, like Beck said, to respond to somebody's heart attack.
Which is why we need Medicaid expansion.
Well, that's part, but we came up with a plan that let's try to, and Beck's going to tell you, there are 10 that we can identify that are real frequent. And if we can get them to a point where they don't make the call, that we're being proactive, he's going to tell you about that proactive approach.
The program utilizes a highly trained and experienced paramedics who provide community education for the individual. They access the appropriate resources, and they serve as advocates for the patient. This is a collaborative endeavor which utilizes multiple level resources such as the City of Portsmouth Health Department. The Health Department is on board, Social Services and Mental Health, Bon Secours, Maryview Medical Center, and local physicians and community-involved agencies. And the reason they're on board is because if you keep them out of the emergency room, it lessens the things that they have to do and improves their services to other needed folks. Through these initiatives, we will help to reduce unnecessary emergency department visits, reduce the potential for hospital readmissions, and reduce strain on our local resources. And that's the gist of the program.
Are they billed for these calls?
Yes.
What's the...
When we go out to visit, we do not bill for the call.
Oh, not visits.
But if EMS takes somebody to the hospital, they bill.
If we transport them, then we bill for that service.
Talk about the patient, too, that you taught the patient, was it on diabetes management?
We had one patient that had called numerous of times, and she was getting her medication wrong because she didn't have glasses that she could read the prescription or read the instructions. So when we made contact with her, we were able to get her to the right resources. They bought her glasses, and I don't know, she hasn't called.
She has yet to call since we've made that.
And see, that what we're trying to do is catch them.
That's good.
Yeah.
Prevented.
We're there to serve as that advocate. They're the patients that fall in between the cracks of the system. So we're there to point them to the resources they need. This individual patient was calling 8 times a week, and she's not calling anymore. It was a simple fix.
Good fix.
Some of the logistics, some of the new equipment that we bought to make firefighters' safety or make them safer. We've gotten what we call the power load. This stretcher, because we have so many back injuries, it'll load a 700-pound person with just a press of the button. Once we get them to the ambulance, hook them into the back of the ambulance, and it'll take them up and put them inside of the ambulance. This is the Lucas device, a $15,000 device. We have one, and it does CPR while the other folks, since we only have 3 people, it performs CPR like one of the best methods for doing CPR. It's the Lucas device. Our stretcher, we hope to put them on all the ambulances. It's like $22,000. So these are some of the new.
How
new is that?
700-pound person?
700 pounds.
How new is that Lucas device? How long have you had that?
How long?
We just got it.
We just got it.
In June of last year.
Yeah.
It's on the EMS supervisor's vehicle, so it responds on all cardiac arrests.
So what we intend to do is try to maintain or continue to reduce the number of fires that we respond on and improve our EMS division by continuing staffing. We still want to continue to hire folks, and hopefully we'll be able to finish an academy in July of this year, start another academy in August, and hopefully finish it before by the end of next year. So we're trying to hire folks as fast as we can, because we're coming up on a period where we have like 39 people that can retire today. So we want to be.
Don't make them mad. Don't say anything to them, Beck. Leave that right.
This is the last class of 321. Remember, it was 20 years ago. And so they're coming up on the right combination of service and age. And it may not be about mad. It's just a sweet time for them to retire.
And anybody that's 45 years old that's in the department have 20 years, this is ideal for them, because they can leave here with 60% of their pay. Go to another department, which are waiting. Some of the departments not even doing basic school because they're waiting for our 321ers. How are they going to go after that?
That's their recruiting strategy.
That's their recruiting strategy.
It should be ours.
Why can't we rehire them?
But we are. And that is something that I'm implemented. I've asked the 2 chiefs to work together with HR, and so that we don't lose. Remember the investment on both sides.
You're getting that's right.
And that's that. And then add to that 20 years worth of knowledge.
Experience, yeah.
And knowing the roads, and knowing the buildings, and knowing our equipment.
And knowing our system. Yeah. I'm getting goosebumps thinking about it. I think it's one of the best things that we have decided to do, and we can do that administratively. And so they're working with Tony to get that done.
We had a citizen talk at the last meeting about checklists after a fire. Surely we have one.
Thank you for bringing that up, because we
have one.
Yeah.
We have a checklist that we give out when people have fires. In fact, we give it to the neighborhood so they can
Distribute.
just knowledge. We need to share as much information as we can.
Maybe the problem is they don't know that we have it, or don't know what department. If they come to City Hall, would we know to send them to the fire department to get one?
I think in that case,
This
Bill,
case is a little different.
yeah, she wasn't home when, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, this was a rental property, and they left it with the person that was at the rental property. She's the owner of the house, and evidently they never gave the information. But we do leave the information there.
In other words, after post fire, they make sure the owner gets it. Okay. How's the Beck? How's the diversity breakdown with fire department? I know that was something.
Just like the chief said, we're probably right where we were. We had so many retirements. We're like 76% white male, 7% women, and 12% black male.
Since he brought that up, that was one of the things that we addressed years ago, was minority recruitment. with the department. In fact, most of the civic leagues focusing on it, even some of the faith-based churches did. Also, one of the things, so I don't know if we still have that program in place, the fire department went into every school and conducted a program, and an assessment program for the staff as well as for the children to see the firemen as a friend. It's a community helper. You're still doing that. That is a beautiful program. Don't ever let it go.
Plus, we do the past reading. We go into the schools and we read to the children, and that's a program that we're going to continue to do.
Dynamite. Keep it up. Children love it.
Beck, the academy, I think last year we graduated the first 2 of the EMS.
That's right.
And how is that looking as far as this year?
Well, I think that's one of the things, because we're partnering with Tioga Community College, and those students ride in our ambulances. So when they see the city of Portsmouth, they rather work here than go elsewhere. And then we're getting students from Virginia Beach that like our system. And, you know, I figured that if you start with the younger ones and get them here and get them riding and get them used to riding, they'll continue to stay. But, you know, the position is only good for 10 to 15 years. After that, you start getting burnt out and everything else. So, and then they look to move on to nursing or physician assistants or physicians. So,
yes, sir.
This question is for both the chiefs, fire and police. Is there anything that we as a council need to do or can do to support you anymore? These are both great briefings. You're doing great jobs, but is there anything you need from us that we're not support?
we have that.
That's not a trick question. It's not loaded. You got everything?
I guess you'll get ours from the budget presentation.
Always use more money.
Stay tuned, right?
We funded your radios, right? That was your big thing from last time, and you're on track to get those.
And I'm going to ask Carol to give you an update on that. You want to come up? But before they sit down,
I got a question for him before he sits
aren't they great? I want.
Did you have the same communication problems that the police department was having?
Yeah, we had the same problems. What we did, we purchased what they call repeaters. Mm-hmm. We put repeaters in all the units in that area. So if we're out there, because we can't lose contact inside of a burning building.
So you don't need the radio, you just repeaters?
Well, the radios will help, but you know, the repeaters, you got to get just right. You don't want to be in a spot where there's a dead spot, what we call a dead spot.
Because you can't communicate.
Now, Carol's going to tell you what. I'm sorry.
Did I finish?
Finish.
I have a question before you sit down.
Okay.
Well, let me interject, if you might, because we're talking about radios, and Danny asked the question. Carol's got the number. It's not 6, it's 8.
Right. The total project cost was $11 million. $3 million of that was funded in prior years. We have remaining $8 million. But we're in the process of hiring a company to help us value engineer the project to make sure that we are scoping it correctly and that we have a good handle on what it actually will cost, because obviously that's a significant investment.
You don't want to rely on the manufacturer totally to spec it for you. And you can guess who the big ones are. And so you want to make sure that you got somebody that you're paying that's not selling the equipment to do the value engineering.
Bishop.
Oh yes, I was speaking to a group of senior citizens not long ago, and the question came up about our weather in regards to tornadoes coming real close to here. And their question was, are there anything in the making that would sound alarms or sirens to let them know that?
We have alarms that go off, but they're mostly over at the shipyard. They do a tornado warning test every so often. Mm-hmm. If they would stay tuned to Channel 48 or either one of the stations, we give out information that we get from the National Weather Service. Mm-hmm. Spence Campbell, who is our emergency deputy coordinator, he keeps abreast on any kind of weather situations that come up, and I send the emails out as soon as we know something. So the information that we get a comprehensive report on what's happening with the weather. They can almost pinpoint, just like during the snow, they can almost pinpoint when we're supposed to get snow here. And it's very accurate with some of the information that we get. So if they would, just stay tuned and just focus on the news. Once we get it, we'll put it out to them.
Other questions?
Thanks, Chief. Good job.
Thanks, guys. You want to introduce your people with you back, and Ed, in case, don't be shy. Come on.
This is Chief Mike Stockton. He's in charge of the administrative division, and Jeff Myers is in charge of BMS division.
Okay.
I have Richard Benson, who's filling in for our planning manager position.
Richard. Thank you.
All right,
Yep.
thanks. All right, back in August, we created a new department so that we could get really laser focused on the very fabric of our community. Just like the DNA is the genetic code of our bodies, our neighborhoods are the genetic code of our community, our city. And we've had a long history of saying that Portsmouth is a community of neighborhoods, and I really wanted us to focus on the neighborhoods. And with that, we took together disparate parts of our bigger organization and brought them together in one department with that sole focus. And I want to give you an update on the status. Part of that process is civic engagement, and we really need civic engagement to make this work. And Fred's going to give you an update.
Thank you, John. Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of council, good evening.
Good evening, Fred.
Yeah, I find it interesting. We've used DNA over and over and over again, but DNA is composed in your body of 4 basic chemical compounds, just like the neighborhoods are composed of 4 basic compounds. You get the houses, the people, the yards, and the streets. And I mean, so it draws a lot of similarity as we go through. As John said, we've been talking about DNA in the neighborhoods and how important they are as we go along. And we wanted to just sort of let you know where we are today.
It's a nice shot. Go back to that. That's nice. Who did that?
Divorce.
Very good.
Recognize the double helix.
I love it. I love it.
Good job.
We've actually
That's right.
staffed
We got a good bench.
That's right. That's right.
the first month the department was formed. Staff actually went out and found the old water tattoos in that double helix, and if you came down for about the first month, they were wearing the little on their cheeks that like you do at the football game. As John said, we've renewed our efforts to improve the neighborhoods, because we've always considered that the fabric. Portsmouth family. You hear these comments over and over. And as he said, we started the Neighborhood Advancement Department in August of 2013. And he said, I want you to go to sleep and wake up thinking neighborhoods, period. Well, my wife has now moved the tablet into the bathroom because she says she doesn't want the light to keep coming on all night. But that is what the entire staff is doing. They have actually gone to other states, other cities, other communities to find out what do you do for your neighborhoods. Again, our sole purpose is dedicated to the improvement and quality of the neighborhoods. If the neighborhoods aren't good, everything else is going to fall apart. As John indicated, and recapping for you, DNA is comprised of the inspections division, which is your property maintenance and environmental inspectors, zoning inspection, and then we've also moved over the city ombudsman into the city's department. Citizen engagement. You would think that a term like that is easy to define, and as we've gone through these last 6 months, I have found over 2,000 different definitions. So we've tried to bring together what we think civic engagement is. And it's the ways in which citizens participate, not the government, it's the citizens participate in the life of the community, whether it's a special event, whether it's helping a neighbor, it's the life of the community to improve conditions for others, themselves and for others, and then at the same time to educate the governing bodies to their needs, to let you know what they need as they go on, and then to help shape the future. How do we grow and become better? How do we improve? How do we advance? Advance, that's the key word here. Now, I'm going to start off, and it's not a very pretty comment. 15 years ago, we had 75 plus civic leagues. We're now down to 50, and unfortunately, right before I came up here, had a phone call from one civic league that says they're holding a special meeting next week to talk about disbanding. So we will have staff there with them to see what we can do to help them. But we've got to change that trend. Most of them are not meeting regularly. They're meeting bi-monthly or quarterly or as needed. And so one of the things that we've been doing, staff was going to the Civic League meetings, but it was as they were holding them. We changed that. We're going as they hold them, but the staff is now talking to the Civic League presidents on either every other week or every week. In one case, it's almost every day, with the presidents and the officers of the Civic League to find out what's going on, what can we do to help you. Get that engagement moving. We've established a relationship with the police department again, with the neighborhood impact officers. That way, when we have a vacant house or they have a problem house, they can come to us and we can work hand in hand to get something accomplished. And if you remember, we distributed the 10-10-10 questionnaire. That was to be used as an additional conduit for citizen engagement. And finally, but not least, the city manager's coffee talks. We've been having 15, 19, 20 people at each of these that have come in and just sat down and talked about the good things, the bad things, what they'd like to see, what they're seeing and they don't like. So we're looking at every avenue we can. Now, neighborhood needs. We're hearing this.
Before you go back to the citizen engagement, what's your feel? What do we need to do?
We are probably ahead of a lot of other communities. We are using, with Lavor's help, Facebook, Twitter, the email blast. We were actually sending out information, as you know, about the flood insurance changes before even the state had those. So it's getting that information out. We're going to have to try other methods, and we're constantly looking for those. The computer generation is picking it up. But I'm afraid the elderly or the low income that do not have the computers, we've got to find another way to get with them. And I think faith-based community is we're trying to reach out to them to say, can you help us, get something in the bulletin? And so these are the avenues that we're starting to explore.
Let me add to that, if I may. It's a national trend. We're not the only trout in this stream that's swimming this way. Robert Putnam, who is a social scientist at Harvard, wrote a book within the last decade called Bowling Alone. And a very catchy title, but America has becoming an individualistic society. Instead of bowling with a team, you bowl alone. Instead of being a member of the Civic League, you cut your grass. Don't join. And so this is a trend that's nationwide, not just in Portsmouth.
But the reason I ask is it is a nationwide thing, but it'll kill cities like ours first because we depend heavily on our neighborhoods and feedback from people that to me it's vital to make sure that line of communication. And Facebook is picking it up, but you're right. It's a younger group that's not going to be very active, but want to give you an opinion, and you need that. But it's those seniors and some of those middle-agers that used to depend on the civic leagues to get that information that they're not coming, and so.
Well, there's other groups, and we've also started looking at them. In the past, we've not sent any notifications to the PTA. Mm-hmm. But they're a very active group, so let's get to them, the notifications, the information that we're sending out to the civic leagues. Same thing with your sports groups, the sports associations, those types of, and working with anybody that we can talk with. But it's interesting because we've always left out the commercial community. So let's start engaging the commercial community as well as, I mean, they're part of our city, and we need to engage them as well. Neighborhood needs, and we're hearing about these needs, like we said, through a number of different venues. Non-agenda speakers, the coffee talks, the 10-10-10, the civic leagues, just regular calls, on the street, meeting someone. And what we're hearing is, we've got the top, I think, 5 here that we think are there, and we need a way to help our seniors and the disabled citizens within our city. They're there, they've lived there, they've supported us all these years. We need to do something to help support them in their twilight years. We need more aggressive code enforcement. Plain and simple, we do. There's some people that are giving us a hard time over and over and over again, and we've got to find another way of doing business. And we've got a couple of ideas that we're ready to implement. Greater emphasis on public education concerning the workings and activities of the city. We've got a lot of people that think we have enough money that we can pave every street in the city every year. And, they need to understand, guys, some don't need it, and we don't have the money to do it. There's a number of those ideas that are false and need to be corrected, so we've got to look at ways of doing that. A mechanism to allow the comparisons of neighborhood conditions. And that way, I think it's important because then all of a sudden you can start looking at trending. As the chief said, we've got these things that we could look at, maybe neighborhoods, and then with Janie Culpepper from her departments, adding those into a mix, and then the inspectors and violations and vacant buildings. When you start mixing that together, you can start painting a picture of a neighborhood, and then allows us to attack specific problems. And so that's what we're looking on that. And finally, a mechanism to help in the creation and strengthening of civic groups. A comment appeared a couple of times when we were looking at 10-10-10. It said, the city needs to make a civic league in my neighborhood. I laughed at that. I said, are you kidding? You're supposed to make the civic league. Well, then after thinking about it a couple of days, I realized that maybe we need to find a way to help them and strengthen them so that these people know how to do it right and they don't start an organization that fails. So I think we need to be working on that. Now, the 10-10-10, it was not a scientific approach. We sent out a survey. It was open-ended. It said, tell me, as you can see at the bottom here, 10 attributes of a good neighborhood, 10 attributes of a bad, and what's 10 problems in your neighborhood. An idea just to try and get some feeling of how people were thinking other than the people that usually come in and speak with us. We did it for about a month and a half. We got 133 surveys, which to me was a fairly high amount. We were expecting 50 to 100. Some of the surveys were a half page. Most of them were 2 to 3 pages. We had one that was 5.5 pages long, where they wrote a lot. But they had a chance to come and say, guys, here's what we think is good, bad, and what we need. Again, we used a variety of mechanisms. We went to the senior station. We went to the civic leagues. We went to the recreation centers. We went to the libraries and said, here they are. They're out. Please get these filled out for us. Coming in from the feedback, we started categorizing into themes. And the idea was to say, what's the most prevalent concern? And we started coming up. And as you can see, there was a lot of people that wanted to have frequent street sweeping or cleaning. And you've heard this. We've been hearing it. Actually, we're working on that as part of this year's see what we can do for the budget. Additional lighting. And we've been working on that because we're saying additional lighting, maybe we need to fix what's already there, and we're working through that. But then if we've got everything working, what else do we need? Alley maintenance, increased police presence and patrols. That's a very broad category, so the question that we have to come back now is where do we need to be putting the patrols to get the biggest bang for the buck? aggressive enforcement on some types of the crime. Property, as you've heard, we've been really going after the burglaries. That's an aggressive enforcement. And then there's a specific groups need that's enforcement, which is the homeless, the panhandlers, and the unsupervised youth. Those three groups came up a lot as people's comments that we needed to really do something for or about those groups. Other things we found that other neighborhoods need to be a decision. Are they being impacted by traffic? You hear a lot of that. Well, how do we quantify that? And then once we've done that, is there something that we can do to calm the traffic? The planning department actually is working on a traffic calming manual that we could use as we develop and move along. Again, I mentioned about creating civic leagues and neighbor watches. We would help them create and start it. We would be the incubator as it goes along. And the thing that we're seeing is that these neighborhoods really want to have a sense of purpose. They want to have a location. Location was one of the biggest numbers that came out, and you hear it from real estate agents all the time, location, location, location. Well, I think that's true, but the locations can mean a lot of different things. A community may have a series of activities in their community, and that working with them makes that community a place that some people want to be. And we want to work with neighborhoods that have already been successful, to use them to help other neighborhoods be successful. That way we don't reinvent the wheel. We figure out here's how it's done and move forward. In this coming year, we've got some things we want to do. We want to reallocate resources to neighborhoods to assist in their improvement. And there's a lot of different grants and funding mechanisms that we are looking at to do that. We want to complete a review of codes so that the response time is reduced. Right now, as an example, if you call me and say the grass is 10 inches high at this one house, the way the code is structured, I cannot have a contractor legally go to that house for 28 days. So if it's nice weather and the grass is growing high, all of a sudden that 10 inches becomes knee deep before I can do the first thing. So that's one specific code item. We're looking at these not contractors, but as they call them, slumlords or landlords or homeowners, have a lot of property, and we're probably spending 90% of our time in court with 10% of them. So let's go ahead and instead of going to general district court every single time, we're looking at working with the city attorney to do civil injunctions that the courts order them. They've got to maintain it. If not, then the courts can take additional actions against them. So those are some things that we're working at. Develop a neighborhood report card. We need to be able to say which neighborhoods are good, which ones we need to work with, and we need to be able to look at it on a periodic basis to say whether they're going up or down, whether they're trending, whether something's happening, and then we can move in and help them. And then we need to continue to solicit information from communities on what their needs are. And then find methods to improve that. I mean, if one community has a very specific problem, let's attack that problem so it doesn't cause people to start moving out and then vacant structures to occur and then more crime and more tenant-occupied properties to be there. It's a vicious cycle, and so we need to be looking at it very closely. In summary, we are constantly, and I mean daily, looking for new methods for citizen engagement. Portsmouth is the only community that I have found on the East Coast that has used a billboard to advertise anything related to the city. And we do that on 264 all the time. Nobody else has done that. I can't find another. We've talked to the cities, to FEMA, to the state. They go, you're doing what? So these are ways that we're trying to get the information out. But we need to look at, is there another method? Staff's going to continue to utilize the information from 10-10-10 to see what specific surveys, maybe a specific survey for a neighborhood needs to be addressed, or a question citywide needs to be addressed, so we can form process improvement. So we can look at that and say, this has been identified as a potential problem. Let's make certain it is a problem. If it is, let's then move ahead and correct it. And finally, we want to improve all of our processes, all of our workings together. It's interesting, we don't have the ivory towers. I can go to any department in the building or out of the building and say, I have this concern, can you help me? And they say yes. And when you've got that type of cooperation within an organization, I think the sky's the limit for us. And so we're really trying to work that, and at the same time gain that citizen engagement that you think is, and I think, is so important. And once you get everybody going along in the same direction, recognizing where we want it to be, I think Portsmouth will be the city of choice.
Yes, ma'am.
Fred, if Susan Citizen at home is just listening to your presentation and says, I live in Green Acres and I'd like to do such and such for my neighborhood, what's she supposed to do?
Call me.
Call you. Tell her where.
The phone number for me in my office is 393-8522, extension 4212. That's
Say that
directly
again.
to me. Huh?
Say it again.
393-8522, extension 4212. Now, if she wants to get me after hours, the way I tell everybody is to do BRUSSOF, BRUSSOF, at portsmouthva.gov. A lot of the contractors that we've worked with over the years know that they can, and the rule is, if it's blowing up, I want to know about it. Tell me if you've got a major problem. And we'll, I don't mind coming in and getting something started on a Saturday if we need to do that.
I think your presentation might generate thoughts and communities, and I wasn't sure where to go with it.
Yes, sir.
I think you're on the right track, Fred. We've had these type of starts over again, and it seemed like they lose momentum. I think the problem is apathy is the enemy, and I think it's caused self-inflicted in some cases by the city. We've had communities call in, say their sign fell down or deteriorated or was stolen in the case of Afton Village, and the city's pretty much tough luck. Thanks to the sheriff, in most cases, he's been able to go out and fabricate a new sign. So we've got the proof's in the pudding. We've got, if we don't care enough about the name and the identity to the community, how are we going to care about anything else? And that's been a lot of the problem. Same way with code enforcement. I had a gentleman who's a retired firefighter call me. He lives on Beacon, and he wanted me to see the house across the street from him. And I went out there, and I couldn't believe it myself. I mean, it looked like something you would see in the backwoods of Tennessee. I mean, trash bags on the line, people parking their pickup trucks and the cars so much in the yard that it was a mud hole. And you can't tell. And he claims the environmental inspector went out there and said, "Oh, there's nothing we can do with that."
I think that individual's going to court next week.
Well, they need to, because it's disgraceful looking. It brings down the value of other homes in that community. But we got to, talk is cheap. We got to back up the nice talk with some action and some investment in these communities, and see if we can revigorate some of these civic leagues that, due to apathy, are talking about, like the one you mentioned is disbanding. When that happens, shame on us.
Let me, you gave me a great segue. One of the things we're looking at, bullet number one, is to redirect we don't get a lot of community development block grant money, but redirect that money to neighborhoods. And that will be coming out in the budget process. So we are putting our money where our mouth is. So thank you, Bill, for giving me that opportunity.
And I just want to give a plug to, because in the last 3 months, I think I've called Bob, Fred, and Youssef about community concerns that citizens get, and every one of them came back to me within the week and said that these 3 guys had been in touch with them and addressed their needs. So I guess part of the issue is them knowing the problems, so and the problem getting to them. But well, it's been more than 3 cases because I called a couple of y'all 3 times. But each time they went out, they took care of the problem, and the person responded back to me that they were very pleased with the results. So
one of the things we need to drive back down, though, is that information flowing to you, because if they want to call us, and I can go somewhere and I'll get an earful and ask, did they call or did they know, and it's not. And so, yeah, we're their elected officials. Yeah, we want to hear that, but I want to see them calling you. I'd rather them tell me, I called Fred and I didn't get anywhere. And so we've got to be able to.
You do. I'm in trouble.
No, we've got to be able to have our citizens knowing that where to call, who to call, and that we're going to get something done, and not make it seem like they're telling on you to us, which is still a way to get the information out, but we want to make sure that we're building that credibility back up to kind of boost on some of the things that Bill has just said.
They weren't telling them. They weren't telling on them. They didn't know who else to call, so they called elected officials. I don't know if they knew to call you, who to call. They would have, but they didn't. So they called the people they could get in touch with. Our numbers are all listed. So if the citizen got to call me to get to you, that's fine with me. I don't speak for nobody else, but they got to call me to get to you. I don't have a problem with forwarding the calling you or calling you and telling you to contact them.
We took that as a compliment.
It was.
I get a lot of those calls, and I go through our ombudsman, Bernadette.
Yeah, she's
Hogg,
great too.
and
She follows through.
she goes to the and gives good feedback.
Well, one of the things
I will say one thing while I got back up. We do have a citizen concern line, which is 393-8008, and that's available 24/7. So you can leave a message about anything on that, and I'll get it to the right department.
Thank you very much.
we're late.
We had dinner to go to here.
That's a good conversation, though. Very good.
That's good.
Yeah, absolutely.
It was very good.
Yes, sir.
One suggestion you might want to look at, we have a lot of city vehicles, a lot of city workers out in the communities every day of the week. If you could come up with a way to have them be our eyes and ears in those communities when they see something amiss.
Good point.
If you could have maybe an employee hotline where they can call in to report something that they viewed, I think that would be very effective as well.
Thank you.
There is another way you can do it. We have a church on just about every other corner. And somebody is going to a church at least 7 days a week. Ride by and you see it. If the information that we put out, like in City Hall and our elevators and things, if they are disseminated to the churches, and you're talking about getting information in the community, right, Bishop? That's the quickest grapevine you can use, because people are going to talk to one another about things that are important to them. That's right. So we're talking about really reaching the people. Put them out into the churches and even the schools on their counters. When you go into their office, if there's any city information that comes to that school, they put it there at the counter, at the clerk's office when you enter into a school's office. That's the quickest way to disseminate. Look at the number of people you reach.
We actually had a list of churches, and we mailed out, and about half of it came back. So we spent some time looking at addresses to make certain we've got correct.
Follow through on that.
We are.
Because our churches bring the information in.
You can click that.
I'll do it.
2 other items real quick. follow up on civic engagement. We have another form of civic engagement happening this Thursday night evening at the Churchland Libraries. And I want James to tell you briefly what it's about. It's, if you'll focus on this handout real quick.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of City Council. This Thursday at Churchland Library from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. we have a general information session on the Churchland Bridge Replacement Project. We'll be giving out this handout to everybody that comes to the meeting, and that handout involves a brief history of the bridge, the purpose of the project, introduce you to the project team, and talk a little bit about the cost of the project. Now, this meeting will be mostly informal. Members from the project team will be there. There will be boards up, allow citizens to come in and just look at the boards, talk to individual members of the project team, and just get some general information, because this is the first time that most people have got this close to the project. And so this is sort of an introductory phase of the project to the general public. Probably towards the end of the summer or fall, we'll have a larger, more formal design public hearing that's required as part of the process, and that'll be the big meeting where we'll invite VDOT and any other of our state and federal partners to that meeting, and it'll be a more formal process. So that's in a nutshell. That's what this meeting is going to be about.
Good. Danny?
Do you have any idea or any count of what the increased usage of the Churchland Bridge since they've been working on the Midtown Tunnel?
No, we do not.
But we're monitoring. We're making sure, too, not only the bridge, but on where the truck's going, because we want to make sure that they don't go on streets where they should not go. And so we started the very first day that the tolls went on doing this.
Yeah, there are certain corridors we're looking at, and the corridors we're
Like
seeing.
no trucks on Cedar from west?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, our biggest increase are like Cavalier Manor and Craddock and those sections where people are trying to use
Around.
Chesapeake to get around.
Right. And we looked at, do we do something preventive? And we thought, no, let's see where the issues are, and then take the appropriate action.
Right.
Okay.
Good luck with that.
The second item, and the last item, this is a follow-up to an email that I sent you about our request to use schools. Remember, Margaret, where are you? Margaret sent David Stuckwish a memo, quite lengthy, asking to use 12 different schools. And today, we had one meeting that was Margaret and the superintendent. We had another meeting that took place. And from that meeting, we asked for a meeting today with David and his staff. And attending for us was Nita and Margaret. Attending on the school side was, let's see if I can get this right, David Stuckwish, Chris Steele, who's their CFO, Sharon Moore, who's their director of athletics, so that may not be her right title, Jim Bridgeford, chairman of the school board, Linda Ridenauer, and citizen Mark Godalski-Godrowski. And for us, it was Nita and Margaret and one other staff person from Margaret. You want to just give a highlight very quickly?
All right. We, as John mentioned, the first meeting was February 13th, the second meeting was the 27th, and then today we had the third meeting, and we will probably have another follow-up meeting. We've reached agreement on, I guess, most, and I won't say most, but a couple of critical points, and that all the schools that we requested we're able to use. And then also the schools are requesting, well, they're allowing us to use Craddock and James Hurst right away, starting next Monday, with the building use agreement. So with the other schools, and when we start the regular program, they want us to have a memorandum of understanding. But because we've closed the Craddock Recreation Center, they're going to forego the MOU right now and allow us to use just the regular building use agreement for James Hurst and for Craddock.
Are we in Hawaii or something? Did we not all work out of the same building?
Well, it gets better.
They do want us to generate a memorandum of understanding that will be reviewed not only by you guys, but internally for them, their finance department, their operations department, and then the administration on the third floor. And we have reached agreement on most of those points. We have one stickler, however, and that is the schools want to have an agreement on the qualifications for our site managers. So, for example, if we take a site manager from any other facility that we currently run, they want to know the qualifications for that position and approve that position as a part of the memorandum.
Are we dealing with Russia, or are we dealing with
These are our programs,
one of our
We had to pay for them.
city-owned schools?
These are our employees with Parks and Recreation,
Yes,
right?
ma'am. That's correct.
The same employees that run the programs in the Galaxy program and all that?
The summer race and 6 to 6. That's correct.
Right.
So I don't get the difference, what the deal is. Someone,
We had the same reaction. When we hold them completely harmless to damage to the property and damage to personal injury, we take full responsibility. We're going to put qualified people there. We don't pass on the qualifications of their teachers, their principals, their administrators. So this is one of the points that we're going to
Ridiculous. That's right.
That sounds like obstacles to slow walk this thing until I guess we go on to
Get a
something
good
else.
understanding.
But they got to know that we're not going to go on to something else. The children, parents of the children, they pay taxes. They have ownership of those facilities, and I'll be damned if we're going to sit here and let the school system throw a bunch of bureaucratic bull in the pool to prevent these facilities from being open to our children. I mean, it's not going to happen.
See, and you and me. I mean, it
And
could
to
be
us.
a program for 60-year-olds.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's what this is. This is going to be a full spectrum.
That's correct.
Well, anyway, this is the report. We're working on it. We'll keep you posted. And we need, yes, sir.
I'm concerned about the liability, and I think you addressed that. And also about janitorial servers, and also about safety aspects. About certain times, I think there should be some public service by way of police department, sheriff department around to make sure that these things.
That's all covered, yes, sir.
Yes, and we
In fact, we're actually going to use school employees when we use their facilities in certain cases. They'll become our part-time employees. So we're working through all that.
Mr. Rowe, one of the things, and we had one of the most successful school community programs at Lakeview Elementary School. Remember when we had the children out there in the community? We were very well with the Parks and Recreation and all the way through. And it was a feeling of pride. And they worked well together. And Margaret, we never had any problems with the children thing. I think if we approach it with an open mind of cooperation, and the fact is that we are all here, and the schools and the churches and everything else are here for the people and the children. And we need to make sure we have clearly defined guidelines and rules. We aren't dictating to anybody, but we're saying we need to treat the whole thing like we treat our homes.
They're dictating
And
to us.
you ought to have some ground rules. I don't think anybody could just come in your house and just come in and do anything. Ground rules are important. And I will stand by that we have some kind of ground rule.
And we're working in that direction,
And we
right?
work in that
Okay.
direction.
Good deal. All right.
That's all we have.
Okay,
It's
thank you.
dinner time. Oh, we need a break. Are we adjourned?
Yes, we're adjourned.
Okay.
Grace, please,
Yes.
sir.